Welcome back to Good Afternoon Britain. Now, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Senator Ed Davey, declares that he will decline an invitation to Donald Trump's state banquets. But 4 months ago, he said this to the BBC.
In terms of whether I go, if he does come and I was invited by King Charles III, I would go, because I'm not going to disrespect our monarch. And you know what? With the MAGA entourage that will come with Donald Trump, I think the king needs all the support he can get.
And earlier he explained why he'll decline the invitation from the king.
It's a very difficult decision. I've huge respect for His Majesty and have had the honour of going to other state banquets. And I've no problem with people talking to Donald Trump. Indeed, I called for the state banquet to be offered to Donald Trump. But over the summer, we've seen the devastation, humanitarian crisis in Gaza reach new lows. This has to end. We need the ceasefire, we need the hostages out, we need the aid in. And there is one man who has the power to do that, and that's Donald Trump.
Right, well, joining us now is the former Lib Dem senior advisor Pablo Ohana. Pablo, thank you for joining us. To me, that sounded like a bit of a flip-flop from Sir Ed Davey. Has he changed his mind?
No, I think it's actually a serious statesmanlike decision. This is using the offer of a state visit as leverage. It's smart diplomacy. We know that Trump loves this kind of, the ceremony and the pomp and all the kind of pageantry that no one does like the United Kingdom does. But giving Trump the banquet that he craves while Gaza burns is pretty spineless. I think what Ed here is doing is he's saying, listen, I respect the king, I value the UK-US relationship, but Trump needs to be confronted with the moral leadership here. And I think Ed Davey, he doesn't want to sort of sit around, sipping champagne with Donald Trump while children in Gaza don't even have access to clean water. So I think it's a very...
Well, Pablo, sorry to interrupt, but you say that Sir Ed Davey saying he is still respecting the king. The Conservatives disagree. Shadow Foreign Secretary Dame Priti Patel has called it a pathetic gesture politics and says it is an act of deep disrespect to His Majesty.
I mean, for the Conservatives to talk about being pathetic is a little galling. But if Ed wanted to make easy headlines, he would just go. He would smile for the cameras. He's taking the harder path. He's putting principle before prestige. And actually, to be fair, that is what the Liberal Democrats have always done on Iraq, where they were the only party to oppose that illegal invasion. And look how that turned out on Ukraine, of course, and now on Palestine and Gaza. So actually, the Conservatives can say whatever they want. The truth here is that Ed Davey has taken a principled stance that he believes in. He knows that Britain has an incredibly proud tradition of standing up for humanitarian values, and he has shown that moral courage doesn't just, stop at the palace gates, that this is not about snubbing America or snubbing the king. It's about demanding power for peace and making sure that, history judges our country and judges the Liberal Democrats in the light that they want to be.
Pablo, this is a golden opportunity, though, possibly the only one, for Ed Davey to actually talk to Trump in person, to make that point.
Yes, and Ed Davey has reached out and he has made his position clear. I mean, Ed Davey is not the Prime Minister. He has pressured Keir Starmer and pressured the Labour Party into doing the right thing. And this is his way of saying, listen, I have to draw a line somewhere. We know that our country, we love it. I love my country, but we might not have, the strongest military in the world, but we do have a moral compass that provides leadership across the globe. As I said before, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the whole of Europe, the US and many other countries looked straight to us, and why we didn't blink, and full credit to Boris Johnson, we picked a side immediately. That same moral leadership is exactly what Ed is doing now, and he's using all of the levers in his in front of him, all of the power that he has to not disrespect the king and our sort of traditions, but to make sure that actually our country's values that we are so famous for, we really do provide that moral clarity that is upheld, and that's his job as leader of the Liberal Democrats.
You talk about Pablo, Sir Ed Davey using his power. How much notice do you think President Donald Trump, as leader of the free world, will give to Sir Ed Davey's boycott?
Well, Ed Davey has to do what he thinks is right, and I don't know what Donald Trump will make of the leader of the Liberal Democrats not being there, but ultimately you have to do what you think is right, and Ed Davey thinks this is the right path to take, and whether Donald Trump pays attention to it or not, or pays attention to anything other than the ceremony, is not for me to say. But Ed Davey's taken a position that he thinks is right, and you know that's his decision.
But what do you think? Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, Pablo, can I ask where Ed Davey's moral compass was when he was dealing with the scandal of the post office?
Well, he was actually the first minister to call that out and to start an investigation into it. There were several ministers before him that were responsible for that catastrophe, and he has since apologised.
He refused to have a meeting with people. I mean, people took their lives over this.
Well, he refused to have a meeting when the civil servants and the people around him were giving advice that was perhaps not as truthful as it should have been. Since then, he has apologised for his part in it. He did not have a leading role in it. We know that. This has come out in the months afterwards. But he has been very clear about the position on that, and that they should have been listened to, and that they should have, you know, the compensation as well. Ed Davey is the only one that has actually properly apologised for that scandal. Everybody else has skirted around it and avoided it and pretended that they weren't a part of it. He, for his very, very small part, held his hand up, apologised, and has demanded for compensation for those people. No one else has done that.
Pablo, on the state's banquet, there now appears to be an empty seat at the table. How do you think Sir Ed Davey would feel, or the Liberal Democrats as a whole, if the King were to invite Nigel Farage as leader of Reform UK in his place?
I mean, if the King wants to invite Nigel Farage, then that would be up to the King. It hasn't happened yet.
OK. Pablo Ohana, former senior advisor of the Liberal Democrats, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. OK. Well,
I mean, it's just, it seems slightly silly where he's saying one thing 4 months ago, then suddenly he's saying something different. Yes, there have been other people who have boycotted the previous state banquet, from Donald